So, folks, we need to talk about Donald Trump unilaterally declaring war on Iran. And also, we have to talk about a lot. I was covering it live when it initially broke out. So there's a lot that I haven't talked about yet. And I'm just going to try and do a brief summary of events. Which, let's just begin by saying, apparently the very first public acknowledgement that this was happening was caught by TMZ. Four guys near White House bragging hours before strike it was coming. A group at a Washington, D.C. restaurant was talking openly in the bar area Friday afternoon about a national secret that was about to literally explode hours later, the bombing of Iran. Attorney Mark Garagos was at Joe's Seafood Prime Steak and Stone Crab at around 3 p.m. Eastern Time, getting something to eat, preparing to do the Two Angry Men podcast with Harvey Levin from his seat in the bar area. Just before 3:45, Mark overheard people at the next table in the bar area talking about Iran. There were four men sitting at a high-top table, and two women were standing next to the table. The men were dressed in business attire, sport coats and collared shirts. Mark says one of the men said in a voice loud enough for him to clearly hear, the U.S. was going to bomb Iran today. So, just casually leaking state secrets prior to engaging in war. Oh, God.
I don't think I have a drinking problem. I think
we don't need that. We don't need that part. Why is TMZ the best mainstream media in the U.S. these days? Because they actually, care about breaking stories that are true. And I just, this is not my biggest problem, obviously, with the war in Iran. There are so many other problems, but towards the bottom of the list, man, everyone in the Trump administration is incompetent and bad at their jobs. It's so bad. It's so bad, guys. And we know that they were planning this months in advance with Israel, and they chose the day for the strike weeks ago. So the U.S. knew this was going to happen.
What are the odds the guy who made $500,000 on Polymarket just overheard the info about Iran attacks? Can't believe the world we live in.
0%. And the reason I say that, Nathan, is because it has become very clear that essentially what's happening on Polymarket and Kalshi and all of these betting markets is just people inside of the Trump administration profiting off of insider knowledge. They are insider trading news on current events in order to enrich themselves. That's what's happening here. It's not even someone needs to overhear it. It's just that the guys who know it go and place bets on something happening because they know it's going to happen. And there's no law against insider trading on these betting markets. There are laws against insider trading for the stock market, not really on any of these betting markets that are coming into being. The corruption is brazen. It's just brazen. And hey, you know what? Let's take a look at how Netanyahu is responding to, all of this happening right now. He went on Hannity just earlier today.
there are people that say, well, the prime minister of Israel dragged Donald Trump into it. And as somebody that's been friends with him over 30 years, nobody drags Donald Trump into anything, number one. But I want to get your reaction to that.
I have to tell you guys, the response one would expect is just no, of course not. He's a strong, independent man who don't need no man. But instead, things have gotten so bad that Benjamin Netanyahu is just evil villain laughing openly on primetime television. He's just straight up doing some James Bond level villain laughing. I need to practice my cackle for live TV. Yeah, he's a freak. Everything that Israel is doing is disgusting. Everything the United States is doing is disgusting. And, I just have to say, as somebody who's here and has a platform, it does not take a huge amount of bravery to stand up and say, I am against the United States and I am against Israel slaughtering children. I am against the slaughtering of children any and everywhere, whether it is American kids or Iranian kids. And if you think that that's a very specific thing for me to be calling out here, well, just want you all to know, when I was live initially, one of the early airstrikes hit a school in Iran. And at the time, the initial casualties coming out put it at like 3 dead, 3 elementary schoolers killed. That death toll has risen to over 150. 150, mostly elementary schoolers. There are images making the rounds of bloody and burned backpacks. It should not be anything noteworthy to say, I oppose the president unilaterally sending us into war and slaughtering children. Shouldn't take any bravery. Should not be really notable. And yet, even Democrats, ostensibly leading the opposition party, cannot bring themselves to adequately condemn this. Here's Chuck Schumer. When I talked to Secretary Rubio, I implored him to be straight with Congress and the American people about the objectives of these strikes and what comes next. Iran must never be allowed to attain a nuclear weapon, but the American people do not want another endless and costly war in the Middle East when there are so many problems at home. And let me just pause right there. There are no indications that Iran was going to get a nuclear weapon. There are no indications that there are any clear objectives for what Donald Trump is doing here. There are no, these are not simply strikes. These are not targeted in any real capacity. Donald Trump has since come out and said, we're going to be there for weeks. This is going to be a prolonged, large-scale military operation. And Chuck Schumer is just like, well, they're not telling us enough information. Look, I don't have any problems with this. I just, I would have liked to be told that we were going to do it first. Like, I'm sorry. This leadership is so out of touch, it's unsalvageable. Okay? It's unsalvageable. Democratic leadership needs to go. Absolutely unconscionable. But he continues. The administration has not provided Congress and the American people with critical details about the scope and immediacy of the threat. Confronting Iran's malign regional activities, nuclear ambitions, and harsh oppression of the Iranian people demands American strength, resolve, regional coordination, and strategic clarity. Unfortunately, President Trump's fitful cycles of lashing out and risking wider conflict are not a viable strategy. The administration must brief Congress, including immediate all senators' classified briefing and in public testimony to answer these vital questions. The Senate should quickly return to session and reassert its constitutional duty by passing our resolution to enforce the War Powers Act. My prayers are with our brave American service members. But the reason it's so milquetoast is because Chuck Schumer also wants to bomb Iran. He also wants to bomb Iran. The reason these milquetoast Republican Democrats do not adequately stand up to this is because they agree with what he's doing. They also want the United States to bomb Iran. They wanted the United States to bomb Iran for the last 30 years. This is one of those areas where they are perfectly aligned. Establishment Dems perfectly aligned with the Trump administration. Because I want to really hammer this home, right? We have laws against the president doing exactly this kind of thing precisely because we are supposed to be preventing this kind of thing. Because a president being able to order us into a war unilaterally is bad for all of us. It's bad for us here in America. It's bad for people in other countries. It is bad. It is evil. Everyone that is complicit in this should be held accountable. As far as I'm concerned, Chuck Schumer is a collaborator. And frankly, when there is accountability in the form of legal action in the form of prosecution of these people, I think Chuck Schumer needs to be hauled in front of a jury himself, because this is unconscionably weak. At a time that called for some semblance of just common decency and strength, when you had a duty to uphold the Constitution, what did you do, Chuck Schumer? You said, well, he didn't tell us about it, but I'm sure he probably had a good reason. What are the objectives? And it's just like, what? The problem here isn't them not telling you what the objectives are. The problem is that it's blatantly violating the goddamn foundational document of the country. Everyone that is creating a smokescreen to make it about anything other than that, about the heinous war crimes we are doing and allowing to happen by allowing him to violate that Constitution, is a collaborator at this point. And it's infuriating to me that leadership in the Democratic Party and in the DNC don't seem to fucking get it. They all seem to be off in La La Land, as if like, oh god, it's just like another little thing they do. It's just a fun little game they play. Oh, we let them violate the Constitution a little bit over here. We, and maybe a little bit over there, but they're doing it in ways that we establishment Dems like. Just break the Constitution in the ways that we agree with. That's not how this works. That's not how this is supposed to work. And frankly, like, this is grounds for us to destroy the Democratic Party. I always talk about boarding the Democratic Party and taking it over for ourselves. And I do mean that. We need to be doing that. And when I say destroy the Democratic Party, I mean destroy, like, the ability for Republican light Dems to exist within this party. It cannot be allowed to continue. It cannot be allowed. This weakness is killing us. And when I say we need to board the Democratic Party and take it over, I do mean we need to force out the Chuck Schumers. Anyone who's taken that fucking lobbyist money needs to go. I don't care what industry, you need to fucking go. You're taking $100,000 from a big copy printer? Guess what? You need to fucking go too. I don't care what industry.
Because I am surrounded by a conservative hellhole, I can give some unique insight among conservatives. I know the sentiment is this was a bad move, and with the Iran bad people, they don't like it either.
Oh, and we'll get to that, Nathan. Don't you worry. But like, Chuck Schumer needs to go. Hakeem Jeffries needs to go. Anyone who cannot get on board with a progressive vision of this country needs to go. We already tried it. Republican light. We already tried it in the form of Joe Biden. And guess what? Joe Biden brought us right back to fucking Donald Trump. We cannot be allowing this to continue. Like, I gotta be honest here. There also needs to be a reckoning with establishment media. We also need to have a reckoning with establishment media. For example, the New York Times editorial board put together this. Why have you started this war, Mr. President? Which is really fucking rich, considering just like a week ago, the opinions section of the New York Times allowed this article to be written. The Case for Striking Iran by Bret Stephens. Like, I'm sorry, but the sickness is substantial, and it is riddling our society with weakness. And part of it, a huge part of it, is the fact that corporate media has become so centralized. The Ellisons are now buying up all the mainstream media. All the mainstream media. Every single major mainstream newspaper is owned by a billionaire or 100 millionaire, and it's absolutely destroying our information ecosystem. Not to mention all of the AI bullshit, Not to mention all of that. But like, let me put this out here. Ruben Gallego is one of those more moderate Dems who's trying to like thread the needle here. He's not quite Chuck Schumer bad, but he's also not great. Let's take a look at his statement about Donald Trump unilaterally taking us into an insane, stupid war where we're murdering children.
And what are our country leaders doing? They're following Netanyahu, who has literally told us, he just told it on TV, that he's been trying to do this for 47 years. I know. I'd suffered the first attempt at this in 2005. And now America is suffering again because of it. There's a lot of ways that we could be supportive of Israel. There's a lot of ways that we could defend Israel's existence, its sovereignty. I'm 100% for that. But we don't need to go to war for them, especially when it's a dumb war. And
do we need to go to war? Do we need to, come to the defense?
The fascists are lighting the country on fire. The exits are to the far left. If you're unwilling to take them, go ahead and burn.
I mean, that's kind of what it's come down to, Pluvius, for real. But here's the thing. If an ally is trying to take you, a country of 300 plus million people, into a war of aggression, a war of choice, as it's being called in the mainstream media, let's call it what it is, a war of aggression, maybe they shouldn't be your ally anymore. Let's be 100% clear. We should not be allowing the United States, the biggest military force on Earth, to be led around like a dog by fucking Israel in the service of Israel's settler colonial ambitions. We should not be allowing this, and we should not be treating Israel as if it's a good ally, as if it's any sort of ally, because it's not. It's just not. All of the reports from behind the scenes, by the way, on why the United States did this, seems to come down to the fact that Donald Trump has a soup brain. He's weak and mentally done. He's checked out. And Benjamin Netanyahu and the state of Israel basically said, we're going to do this whether you like it or not. Are you with us or against us? They're going to attack you too once we attack them. And so the United States said, well, okay, I guess we'll coordinate an attack. And that's not at all acceptable. It's not at all acceptable. Okay? And to still, even after all of the reporting indicates that Israel dragged us into this conflict, and Donald Trump was too weak to say no, Democrats are still saying, well, Israel's our ally and we should almost unconditionally stand by them. What does Israel have to do to lose the allyship of the United States? It's been doing a genocide for several years now. American citizens are being killed by settler colonialists in the West Bank now. The United States hasn't said shit about that. Hasn't done shit about that. What is happening now is representative of the consensus between the establishment, moderate Dems, and the Republicans. They have worked together for decades to create this exact environment, and what is happening now is a completely predictable outpouring from that. Okay? And now you have Israel striking Lebanon, striking Syria. You have borders being pushed up. And what is becoming incredibly apparent is that Israel is using this particular opportunity to push for more land, to push for the annexation of more land, to weaken the coalition that has prevented them from fully taking over Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, etc. And they're trying to make their dream of Greater Israel a reality. And for those of you who don't know what that means, Greater Israel is the settler colonial myth of Israel. Okay, it's the reestablishment of the ancient geopolitical boundaries of the Kingdom of Israel. It is a known and talked about project among the far-right elements of Israeli society. They will bring maps out at conventions and talk about it. The goal here is to rebuild that. And evangelicals here in the United States have signed on to that settler colonial project, in part because they believe that by helping Israel achieve this, they will bring about, essentially, they're conducting a ritual to bring about the summoning of Jesus Christ to kick off the end times. And if you think that sounds insane, I just want to remind you all that people actually believe this. And in fact, there are some groups that are reporting that, in fact, part of the communications that went out to U.S. troops prior to this attack is that this is a war for Armageddon and the return of Jesus Christ. It's literally being incorporated into our military messaging. So, a combat unit commander told non-commissioned officers at a briefing Monday that the Iran war is part of God's plan and that President Donald Trump was, quote, anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth, unquote, according to a complaint by a non-commissioned officer. From Sunday morning through Monday night, more than 110 similar complaints about commanders in every branch of the military had been logged by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, MRFF.
Is real? No. Is fake.
I mean, like, I appreciate the joke, Sake Tanuki, but this story is real. Okay? People believe it. People have been stewing in books by Hal Lindsey. You know, by people, I mean Christians, evangelical Christians, have been stewing in the works of fiction by people like Hal Lindsey and the Left Behind books, etc., Late Great Planet Earth. And they genuinely believe that once the kingdom of Israel is rebuilt in the modern day, Jesus Christ will come back. And a lot of evangelicals inside and outside of the military believe that fighting Iran will be the catalyst to bring about the end of the world. And this is a huge, huge problem. One complainant identified themselves as a non-commissioned officer in a unit currently outside the Iran combat zone, but in ready support status, deployable at any time. The NCO said they were Christian and emailed the MRFF on behalf of 15 troops, including at least 11 Christians, 1 Muslim, and 1 Jew. The NCO wrote to the MRFF that their commander urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan, and he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ, unquote. When we talk about fascism being a death cult, this is exactly what we're talking about. Okay? This is what we're talking about. MRFF president and founder Mikey Weinstein, a veteran of the Air Force and the Reagan White House, told me since the US and Israel attacked Iran early Saturday morning, the MRFF has been inundated with similar complaints. These calls have one damn thing in freaking common. Our MRFF clients, service members who seek the MRFF aid, report the unrestricted euphoria of their commanders and command chains as to how this new biblically sanctioned war is clearly the undeniable sign of the expeditious approach of the fundamentalist Christian end times, as vividly described in the New Testament book of Revelation. Many of their commanders are especially delighted with how graphic this battle will be, zeroing in on how bloody all of this must become in order to fulfill and be in 100% accordance with fundamentalist Christian end-of-the-world eschatology. So, when you start seeing stories about a fucking school being exploded, and then you realize, oh, the United States military command has been taken over by Christian end times cultists, who are euphoric at the idea of bloodshed in order to bring about Jesus Christ's return. I wonder if any of them stopped to think about the fact that Jesus said something about if anything happens to the least of these, you know? If somebody were to, I don't know, think about what Jesus is actually quoted as saying, maybe they would think twice about being so happy at essentially killing children to bring about Jesus Christ's return. You know, I don't even have words anymore. We are so far beyond having the adequate words for the kind of evil that's happening here. So, let's go. How is Donald Trump reacting to all of this? Well, Donald Trump is very upset that more Democrats aren't sucking his dick. The radical left Democrats, a party that has completely lost its way, are complaining bitterly about the very necessary and important attack by the United States and Israel on Iran. What most people understand is that they are only complaining because I did it, and if I didn't do it, they would be screaming, why didn't Trump attack Iran? He should do it immediately. There's nothing surprising about this. It's the same people that the other night at the State of the Union address wouldn't stand for anybody, including a mother who lost her beautiful daughter to an illegal alien, a great and brave helicopter pilot who got the Congressional Medal of Honor, or a 100-year-old veteran warrior whose bravery is legend. The fact is, whatever I do, they will be on the opposite side. These people are sick, crazy, and demented, but America, despite them all, is now bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Like, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Why aren't you all praising me? Why aren't you all praising me? I'm killing Iranian civilians. Why won't you praise me for doing it? Yeah, I'm doing it in violation of the constitutional powers afforded to me as President of the United States, but you know, I'm dropping bombs for you. I killed all those children for you. Don't you see? Why aren't you praising him? Don't you appreciate the murder of 150 children on your behalf? And of course, I really want to hammer home here. Things are going to get really fucking bad because Iran is not, in fact, Venezuela. And Iran has essentially been preparing to fight America for a very long time. And now we're starting to see a lot of that come unhinged. Because what happened the other day is that, let's just read this from Donald Trump. Khomeini, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. This is not only justice for the people of Iran, but for all great Americans and those people from many countries throughout the world that have been killed or mutilated by Khomeini and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems, and working closely with Israel, there was not a thing he or other leaders that have been killed along with him could do. This is the single greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country. We are hearing that many of their IRGC, military, and other security and police forces no longer want to fight and are looking for immunity from us. As I said last night, now they can have immunity, later they only get death. Which I want to point out is that's a war crime. Just as an FYI, he's promising a war crime. Hopefully, the IRGC and police will peacefully merge with the Iranian patriots and work together as a unit to bring back the country to the greatness it deserves. That process should soon be starting. In that, not only the death of Khamenei, but the country has been, in only one day, very much destroyed and even obliterated. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Just want to remind folks that Hitler also promised to bring peace to the world, just as a FYI. And it has now been confirmed by Iran that the Supreme Ayatollah, Khomeini, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but I'm doing my best. Khomeini has been killed. And also, hey, chat, is it a good thing if the Supreme Leader is killed and then several other people below him are killed? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is creating a power vacuum a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah, is it going to create a stable thing? It's going to devolve into more violence. And we know that it's going to devolve into more violence. Specifically because, wouldn't you know it, prior to Iran attacks, CIA assessed Khamenei could be replaced by hardline IRGC elements if killed. Let's just see. In the run-up to the U.S. and Israeli attacks on Saturday, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency assessed that even if Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in the operation, he could be replaced by hardline figures from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, two sources briefed on the intelligence said. Oh, what does that mean? It means that basically everyone below the Ayatollah who could replace him would be more committed to fighting the United States and solving this through violence. This is an escalation in every respect. This is going to lead to doubling and tripling down. And if you create a power vacuum on the top of the country, there's no one to negotiate a peace with.
Power vacuums are not great, but they're better than mechanical vacuums.
Either way, don't stick your junk in one. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. And so we're now heading into a situation, right? Just to sum up here, where our military commanders are all salivating over the idea of killing not just Iranian combatants, but all Iranians. And not only that, I wanted to highlight the fact that, remember how we just talked about how they really want to kill Iranians, and also they think that by killing enough Iranians, they're going to summon Jesus Christ? Well, here is Admiral Brad Cooper, top U.S. military officer at CENTCOM, who sent this out about a week ago to, 3 days ago. Yes, on Saturday, shortly after hostilities were engaged. And I'm going to read you this letter. To America's extraordinary sons and daughters deployed around the Middle East. By order of the President of the United States, we are embarking on a mission of profound consequence. The time for preparation is over. The time for action has arrived. As we move from deterrence to active combat, I write to tell you how honored I am to serve with you, the most exceptional soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardsmen, guardians, and Coast Guardsmen on this earth. Some of you are stationed in the Middle East. Many of you have deployed overseas on short notice. Others have been extended on deployment for this critical mission. You represent the strongest, most lethal warfighting force the world has ever known. You all selflessly serve our great country and make us so very proud. Since 1979, the Iranian regime has killed and wounded thousands of Americans, and they continue to threaten Americans and our friends. Today, by your courage and grit, you will change the course of human history. My guidance for you is simple. Be relentlessly lethal. In the heat of conflict, remember who you are. Let your conduct be as professional as your aim is precise. Take care of your teammates. The men and women on your flanks, in front of you, and those at your six are your guardian angels. Be theirs. Steady your resolve. Combat is inherently chaotic. The hours, days, and perhaps weeks ahead will challenge you. There will be noise and confusion. Fall back on your training. It is the best in the world. You are the shield of the free world, and today you are its sharpest sword. As the eyes of the world fix upon us, stay safe and Godspeed. He sent this out to 50,000 soldiers. And I just can't get over the phrase, be relentlessly lethal, and combining that with the other story of different commanders being extremely excited to cause as much bloody consequence as they can in Iran to bring about the second coming of Christ. You have a bunch of fucking crusaders going to Iran who believe they are fighting a holy war to summon their god. And that is not hyperbole, sadly. That is not, we're not talking about like some kind of Final Fantasy video game plot. We're talking about what is happening right now in Iran. A warrior death cult. Now, I do want to read one statement from at least one member of Congress that I think had a good response to this, because there are some people in Congress who I think are good. Here is Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari.
What I don't get is how no one asks the follow-up questions on Rubio of, if you don't know, how are you not incompetent at your job? Your job is to know.
I feel like I gotta be honest, mainstream media has so profoundly failed us that I believe the current people who are in power in the Trump administration could genuinely be toppled if on camera basic follow-up questions were asked of any administration official. Genuinely. Ask Donald Trump what a tariff is. Like, ask some basic follow-up questions. And I think that the American people would realize how fucking cooked these people are. But they won't do that, because they know that if they're in the White House press pool, asking questions like that will get them canned. So here's a statement from Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari who is Arizona's 3rd District representative. The Islamic Republic is a brutal, corrupt regime that has murdered and imprisoned its own people for decades. Just in recent weeks, tens of thousands of Iranians have been killed, tortured, or disappeared for daring to demand freedom. I have no sympathy for regime officials or the military apparatus that carries out these atrocities. As the daughter of Iranian immigrants who fled this regime, I know personally what its violence means. Members of our family and friends were brutalized and murdered by the Islamic Republic. I carry that history with me every day. At the same time, as a U.S. Congresswoman sworn to uphold the Constitution and protect the American people, I'm deeply concerned by President Trump's congressional decision to launch an illegal, dangerous war without congressional authorization. Under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the power to declare war rests solely with Congress. Consistent with my previous votes, public statements, and the consensus in my district, I believe no president, Republican or Democrat, has the authority to launch military strikes of this magnitude without congressional approval. Military action carries profound and deadly consequences for American service members, Iranian civilians, regional stability, and the future of an entire nation. Donald Trump has specifically said Americans and innocent Iranians will die in this conflict, yet he has not shared a real comprehensive plan with Congress or a justification with the American people. I want a free Iran and a future of democracy and dignity for the Iranian people. I also want American troops to be safe. These goals must be part of a coherent strategy that does not risk chaos or another endless war in the Middle East and require serious and leadership equal to the stakes. Seriousness and leadership equal to the stakes. That is why I plan to support the bipartisan war powers resolution as soon as it comes to the House floor. This is about the best statement I've heard from the Democrats. And yes, there is a level of proceduralism here that I dislike, but I think it balances the proceduralism with some genuine concern for human life and dignity, Yeah, also, just as an FYI on that war powers resolution, let's just take a quick look. How's that doing on the floor right now? Oh, Josh Hawley says he'll oppose Iran war powers resolution. Oh, that's so weird. Senator Josh Hawley said he would oppose a bipartisan resolution to require President Donald Trump to get Congress sign-off before taking additional military action against Iran. I always said that committed ground troops would be something I think would require immediately a congressional authorization, but that doesn't seem to be the immediate horizon, Hawley said. And I just have to say, the vote is scheduled to happen on Wednesday in the Senate. I don't know that they're going to have the votes to do it. I don't know that they're going to have the votes to restrain what's happening. And it's deeply, deeply infuriating. We've assembled an armada the size, bigger than any other that we have formed since the invasion of Iraq. I feel like maybe that should require some congressional approval. Yeah, for Israel, not for us. That's true. And, luckily there aren't going to be any major consequences from all of this, right? What can Iran do? Oh, the State Department has issued evacuations of any U.S. citizen in Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, West Bank and Gaza, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria,
Imagine a world
UAE.
where Hawley couldn't vote because he, like many other members, was kicked out for sedition.
Our world would have been so much better if we had done that. And Yemen. If you're traveling to one of these areas, be sure to register your travel with step.state.gov. Americans have to evacuate from a huge swath of the Middle East because Iran is going to retaliate to these attacks and has been. Democracy is impossible without sovereignty and stability, which is not possible when there's an imperial power seeking to vassalize you. Well, that's true. And I would also say democracy is not possible. Democratic governance is not possible without accountability, without a mechanism to keep people accountable. And what's happened right now is the mechanism for accountability has been ignored so long by both Democrats and Republicans that, blatant misinformation and lying has been embraced in Congress and by Congress people. And now, you also have entire media ecosystems that have risen up as a result of that lying. And it's just crazy. Just crazy. We cannot have democracy in the United States unless we embrace accountability for war criminals. There needs to be accountability for the people who have violated our Constitution. There needs to be accountability from the people who were complicit with the violation of our Constitution. There needs to be accountability for people who tried to overthrow our government. There needs to be fucking accountability at every fucking level. And when I say accountability, I mean like genuinely people in power in our country need to be tried by a jury of their peers here in America, and then they need to be sent to stand in front of the Hague. Like any kind of future Democratic candidate needs to be promising that. We need to have a promise of accountability. Otherwise, we are doomed to repeat Joe Biden again. If we get no accountability for the people doing this to us and to the people of Iran, what happens is that no country in the world ever trusts what the United States says again. And not only that, the American people never trust their government again. A decent reason why conspiracy theorists continue to gain power in this country is because there is no accountability. And that lack of accountability has to be, in the mind of a conspiracy theorist, attributed to someone or something. Okay? And in order to counteract everything that is currently destroying our society, it needs to start with accountability. And if that means we need to have accountability for George W. Bush for his war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan, so be it. If it means, Bush cabinet, if it means Obama, if it means the Obama cabinet, if it means all of that, then yes, people should stand trial. There needs to be accountability here. It is so frustrating. Hello, Jack. I'm retired from the civil service, but it was run by morons. They should, before it was run by morons, they should be ashamed, but they're not idiots. I think, again, we have to stop attributing stupidity to a lot of these people. Not all of them, but we have to stop attributing stupidity to a lot of these people and start attributing malice. President Trump said on Sunday that the U.S. military intends to sustain its assault on Iran for 4 to 5 weeks if necessary, insisting that it won't be difficult for Israel and the United States to maintain the intensity of the battle, even as he warned of the possibility of more American casualties. And I'm sorry, the president doesn't need congressional approval for a month-long war? How long does it need to be before the president needs to seek congressional approval? 3 months? Can the president take us to war for an entire year without Congress? What about 2 years? What about 4 years? Can a president just come into office and declare war on any country that he or she wants and not need congressional approval until they're already out of office? Is that how this works now? Have we so given up our rights as Americans that we are ready to accept this is how this works? I don't think so. And I think we need to be a lot louder about this. G. Elliott Morris has a great data from YouGov polls right now to show exactly how popular is this with the American people. We were talking when this initially broke out, how the Trump administration has done none of the work of trying to manufacture consent for this. How popular is this exactly? If you'll notice, the invasion of Afghanistan, 2001, overall it had 92% approval from the American public. 96% from Republicans, 90% from Democrats. That's a lot of support. Then we get to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. 72% support, but 93% among Republicans, only 59% among Democrats. And then we get to Iran in 2026. Half the level, less than half of the level of support for Iraq. And despite 69% of Republicans being in favor of this, only 19% of Democrats are in favor of this, which tells us a couple of things. One, Democratic leadership that is not willing to fight tooth and nail against this war is out of lockstep with the Democratic Party. Just full stop. This is the least popular thing that Donald Trump maybe possibly could have done. And you have to understand, you have to work as a Republican president to have support for your activities drop to 69%. This is an indicator of how angry Americans are at this. What's really telling to me right now is that the Trump administration has no other exit strategy for this. They've killed anyone they could have negotiated with in Iran, apparently. They are continuing to double down on, well, we're going to bomb them for like a month or two. And Pete Hegseth, earlier today, went out and said, well, I mean, we might put boots on the ground. And I gotta tell you guys, like Josh Hawley, who is like saying, oh, I'm not going to vote for a War Powers Act unless they put troops on the ground. I think for a lot of Americans, and let me put it this way, a lot of Republican Americans in the United States, they have no stomach for putting U.S. troops on the ground in Iran. Like, we're already seeing it's deeply unpopular. And Donald Trump saying, "Oh yeah, no, we'll maybe put boots on the ground. Who can say? Who can say?" I think it's telling. Also, it's telling, for his part, Mr. Vance, who appeared to personally lean against military attacks, argued that a limited strike was a mistake. If the United States was going to hit Iran, he told the group, it should go big and go fast. A spokesman for Mr. Vance declined to comment. Before the meeting, Mr. Trump appeared to have been leaning toward a strategy of a smaller strike, followed by a bigger one if Iran did not give up its nuclear enrichment. But Mr. Vance's arguments seemed to resonate, and in the coming days, more officials moved towards the idea that the United States and Israel should jointly take aim not just at the Iranian missile and nuclear programs, but also at the leadership itself. So, just to be clear here, what happened is Benjamin Netanyahu, like the United States into a war with the help of J.D. Vance. Okay? And I think it's pretty interesting that J.D. Vance has not been seen for several days. He's been extremely silent at this point because he also knows this is extremely unpopular. And he is cognizant of that fact while having aspirations to become president in just a couple years. Okay? So I think he's aware that this is a complete and total shit show. And that this is going to escalate further and further. Now, remember how I said, oh, they're having to evacuate, like, the Middle East at this point? Remember that part? Remember how I said that? Well, guess what? We're starting to see a whole lot of problems cropping up beyond just, oh, you need to evacuate. 3 U.S. fighter jets accidentally shot down by Kuwait air defenses. The U.S. Embassy in Riyadh is on fire after being struck by multiple missiles. 6 U.S. military members have been killed. And yes, of course, mass evacuations throughout the Middle East. And so, this is going to get worse. Also, just as a sign of how this is harming and reshaping U.S. relationships in the Middle East, a Saudi official went on Al Jazeera to say America has abandoned us and focused its defense systems on protecting Israel, leaving the Gulf states that host its military bases at the mercy of Iranian missiles and drones. I want you all to take a moment to understand Al Jazeera is funded by Qatar. Saudi Arabia and Qatar do not get along. The fact that a Saudi official is willing to go on Al Jazeera and say, the United States has left us all. We are all at the mercy of Iran's aggression at this point, is an indicator that, like, some real shit is going down here. Like, diplomatically. And so, like, the realignment that's happening here is essentially, in my view, catalyzing a group of states against not just the United States, but also against Israel, who they already deeply, deeply hated, and are also aligning them towards China. You know, I've been thinking about, like, the business dealings and diplomatic dealings that the United States and Saudi Arabia have had recently, and how this might affect all of that. And it's real bad, guys. Just geopolitically, this is a deeply unstabilizing event. And just as an example here are here are the Bahrainis from Bahrain, having a protest in support of Iran, and just check this out. Yeah, so they're throwing Molotov cocktails en masse at security forces in Bahrain. And they're really, really angry at what is happening. And the genie is out of the bottle. Pandora's box has effectively been opened. And we are just... no one can really predict what's going to happen now. No one can really predict what's going to happen. And I don't know. Let's hear how Donald Trump talks about troops being killed in this conflict that he ordered.
Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is.
That's just the way it is, guys. There going to be more before it's all done. That's just the way it is.
Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve.
He actually said the thing. I gotta be honest, guys. This man should spend every day, for whatever remains of his life, in like a concrete box. He should be like imprisoned. Let his skeleton rot for as long as this republic stands. Like, that's the kind of thing that needs to happen here. Like, it's what is happening right now is wrong and deranged and disgusting. And like, there's not a circle of hell low enough, or a punishment sufficient enough, or a word descriptive enough for what horrors they are doing here and the need for justice that yearns in my heart. And I think that sentiment is echoed by every American of conscience. Just as an FYI, lawmakers have now been briefed on the operation to attack Iran, to unilaterally declare war on Iran. And let's hear how this lawmaker reacted.
Let's also be clear. I said before, I've said now, there was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. We equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory. We have seen the goals for this operation change now, I believe, 4 or 5 times.
So, well, that's interesting, because it now seems that the Trump administration has no idea what the fuck our goals are in Iran. And that's important, because if they don't know what they're doing there, they can be there forever. There's no plan to leave. If there are no goals to achieve, then, and those goals shift all the time, they're just going to stay there forever. His goal isn't regime change. I don't think Donald Trump has a goal, because there was never a plan in the first place. There wasn't a plan. His brain is soup. He just said, do it, and they did it. And guess what? The Pentagon also says no sign Iran was going to attack the United States first. That's so crazy. Guess what, folks? It turns out that not having a plan is not the job of the president. You know, having a plan, that's for people who know things. That's for people who aren't presidents of the United States. Just take a look at this.
Moving forward, in a social media post Sunday, President Trump wrote this, quote, hopefully the IRGC and police will peacefully merge with the Iranian patriots and work together as a unit to bring back the country to the greatness it deserves. Is hope the plan for the future of Iran?
No, the future of Iran is going to be determined by the Iranian people. The new Iran, whatever it is, whether it's a cleric or a representative democracy, our goal is to make sure it cannot become, again, the largest state sponsor of terrorism. That's a win for us.
But is there a plan to make sure that happens, Senator? Is there a plan? Does the president have a plan to guarantee that that happens?
No, it's not his job or my job to do this. How many times do I have to tell you? Our job is to make sure Iran is no longer the largest state sponsor of terrorism, to help the people reconstruct a new government, no boots on the ground. We don't own, you know this idea, you break it, you own it? I don't buy that one bit. It's in America's interest to make sure the Ayatollah is dead. He's dead.
Moving forward.
The argument here is insane. It's insane. Like, oh, it's not our problem. You know, if we go in and we kill 1 million Iranians, you know, we don't have to have a plan for that. It's not our job. We're going to just carpet bomb the country for a month and call it good. What? What the fuck? I'm sorry, but my impression was that elected leaders were supposed to lead. And in order to be a good leader, you have to have a fucking plan. Every single Republican should be prosecuted, man. Every single Republican. This is criminal levels of negligence. Frankly. Criminal levels of negligence. And not only that, it's negligence weaponized in service of imperial violence. They killed 150 school children. 150 school kids. Oh, we don't have to have a plan for that. Well, it's not, you know, we break it, we bought it? I don't think so. Vile pieces of trash. Something about that previous clip we played right before the Lindsey Graham one stuck out to me. Let's play that again real quick.
Let's also be clear. I said before, I've said now, there was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel.
Oh, what was the nature of that threat, I wonder? Someone should do some reporting on that. You know, ask some questions, figure it out. Oh, wait, someone did? Oh, look, CNN. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio argued that the imminent threat posed by Iran was its expected retaliation to planned Israeli military action, and that prompted the U.S. to strike first. So, just to be clear, the imminent threat posed by Iran was actually that Israel was going to attack Iran and kick off hostilities, and then Iran was going to respond in kind. Their argument was that Israel told the United States, we're going to attack Iran, and when we attack Iran, Iran is going to attack us, so you better hit Iran with us. And Donald Trump said, okay, because he's a soup brain. I mean, the Onion is genuinely on point here. Netanyahu calls Iran strikes necessary to prevent war he just started. This is unironically the case. This is unironically what happened. The Onion is just writing actual real news headlines now. This is all just so unbendingly awful. Now let's hear Marco Rubio's own words on this one, shall we?
No.
And was there an imminent threat? Did you tell lawmakers that there was an imminent
There
threat?
absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before.
He just genuinely came out and said it. If only there was some kind of, I don't know, superpower that could have, say, an ally and talk to their ally to stop this all from happening. If only there was some kind of, I don't know, strong relationship between the United States and Israel that could be called upon to stop an Israeli preemptive strike on Iran. The way that this is all going, it's like, it's just genuinely insane shit.
Or we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
Again, we are now engaged in a war of aggression against Iran, and their argument is, well, after we hit them, they were going to hit us back, so we had to hit them first. It doesn't work that way. Like, I'm sorry. School bully doesn't roll up in the schoolyard and punch you in the face saying, well, if I didn't punch you in the face, you were gonna hit me in the face after I punched you in the face. Like, it's such a stupid argument. Even a school child wouldn't use it. It's fucking clown shit. Here's Mike Johnson, other ranking Republican.
They had to evaluate the threats to the U.S., to our troops, to our installations, to our assets in the region and beyond, and they determined, because of the exquisite intelligence that we had, that if Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets. We have troops in harm's way, and we have...
Again, the solution here is to stop Israel from doing that. There are ways that the United States could have done that. It's not hard. We enable them to defend themselves with our arms. We enable them to commit their acts of aggression with our arms. If we cut them off, they're fucked. And they know that. Saying like, oh geez, well there was nothing we could do when they attacked, so we had to attack with them. It's fucking just weak, unadulterated lies.
Have many Americans in the region, and that was of a great concern. If we had waited for all of those eventualities to take place, the consequences of inaction
Every
on our...
reporter question to Mike Johnson should be, what * did you watch and what did your son watch this week? With suggestions of tags.
I mean, genuinely, I would appreciate literally any kind of strong questioning towards any of these people. Like, look at him. He's sweating. He's fucking flushed. He looks like he just came from a rundown with his son.
Protest in Deepred, Texas yesterday. Even here the majority of people who drove past agreed. The window is shifting, but slow.
A lot of people fucking hate what's happening. Look at him. He is, as the kids say, experiencing a fatal cortisol spike. Okay? Like, he's not having a good time here. And I just have to say, like, ask him literally any follow-up questions and watch him fucking melt. Alternatively, find a lady who likes to dress in latex to, really grill him. Okay? I think if you could get like a latex wearing, very big black shoe wearing lady, like stilettos that look like they could kind of like cause some damage, I think that maybe he would crumble in the span of about 5 seconds. Okay? Not a lady, he wants a daddy. You could find someone like that, I'm sure.
Part could have been devastating. We don't know at what magnitude, but you can assume, because it is common sense, that if Iran had begun to fire all of their missile arsenal, short...
Yeah, imagine if Iran had started to fire their missile arsenal. Why, it would be like you would have to evacuate the entire Middle East. Haha. It would be like set off a chain reaction of events.
I'm so tired of hearing about the threats of anti-Semitism. It's turning me into an un-Cassamite, UNC plus Jewish man.
God, Sake. Unk plus Jewish man. I like it.
And
Sake does have big unk energy. I don't know how to explain it.
In mid-range missiles, at our personnel and our assets and our installations, we would have suffered staggering losses.
It's so awful. Also, of course, there are some dipshit conservatives who are like, now would be a good time for Democrats to drop their opposition to DHS funding and pass the bill to support our homeland security. Continuing to play political games with our national security, given the unfolding situation in the Middle East, is dangerous. Oh, did you start a war in the Middle East? Unilaterally? Your Republican leadership did that and are now all doing, press for it? And, we created a problem, so you need to restore funding to allow us to have masked armed men patrol your streets and arrest anyone who's black and brown. Fuck you. We're not doing Iraq again. Fuck you. We're not gonna be doing this fucking, like, getting Muslim men to snitch on one another thing. We're not doing that again. Fuck that. Anyone entertaining this should be hounded out of politics forever. Just forever. Oh, and remember that school full of children that we had blown up in our name using our tax dollars? Let's see Marco Rubio talk about that.
This is Secretary of Administration knows about a strike on a building in southern Iran. The Iranians are saying there's a school reported large including children.
Yeah, I've seen those reports. I would refer you, not because I'm not trying to answer your question, but I don't want to get it wrong. The Department of War would be investigating that if that was our strike, and I would refer your question to them, and I'll make sure they're aware that you have that question. But we'd like to know. Well, clearly, the United States would not deliberately target a school. Our objectives are missiles, both the ability to manufacture them and the ability to launch them, and the one-way attract drones. That would be our focus, and that's what we would be focused on. We would have no interest and, frankly, no incentive to target civilian infrastructure. The Iranians are, on the other hand, targeting civilian infrastructure. You guys have seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. They're hitting hotels. They're hitting embassies. They're hitting airports. They're hitting oil infrastructure. Well, it'd be very tragic, but I can't speak to the details behind it because I just don't have it. It would be a tragic outcome if it's happened. I don't have the details as to what led to it. But what is clear is that the United States would not deliberately target a school. They are, on the other hand, deliberately targeting civilians, as you've seen, because you know why? They are a terroristic regime. They sponsor terrorism and
we hit them first. We're blowing up schools. What the fuck are you talking about? Genuinely, what the hell? They're the terroristic regime. We blew up a school with 150 school children inside. And he's like, oh, well, I don't have the exact story here. You'd have to ask the Department of War. I'm sure the Department of War under Pete Hegseth is right on investigating our war crimes. I'm sure they love doing it. I'm sure they're absolutely going to be totally truthful on that 100%. And also they're bombing hospitals and they're bombing schools. And I also want to point out here something that is an interesting fact. Did you know that prior to just a handful of days ago, when Anthropic was dropped and railed against by Donald Trump, Anthropic's large language model was being incorporated into the United States military. And one of the things Anthropic was doing with its integration with the US military was using its AI software to find targets in conflict zones. And I just have to say that a big part of me right now, especially considering that Anthropic was just taken out, but they haven't yet put in any new large language model AIs into military use yet, meaning they're still using Anthropic, meaning that the large language model that was used for this attack was Anthropic's, and that part of its duties was to select targets. I think it's really, really fucking interesting that Marco Rubio says the United States would not deliberately target a school. I think that's a very careful choosing of words, because I think Marco Rubio actually does know what happened with this incident. And what I want to say, if I had to speculate here, is that the United States is using these AI models to select targets based on their data sets, and is then feeding that into their bombing computers.
I am not advocating for this, but as a genuine question, do you think it's a possible future if things are bad enough there could be a French Revolution-style march on the Capitol?
We're in the cool zone. Anything's possible. Oh, that's dark? Well, I think that Anthropic's large language model is painting targets, and I think that perhaps from data points, a school might look like a military installation or some viable military target. And I think that also, especially right now, there are going to be people in the Trump administration trying to dodge responsibility for this, who are going to try and say, oh, we didn't deliberately target it, it was the AI. These Republican war criminals will blame the AI. Yes, that's what I'm saying. They are ultimately responsible for it, but they are going to try and pass that responsibility off onto the AI model. They did this, Israel did this in Gaza. The United States is trying to do it. Yeah, like Lavender AI, exactly, Spood Magoot. You understand exactly what I'm referencing. And I think that what is happening here is the same thing, just on a larger scale with the US. Still, I'm not saying it is a good dodge of responsibility. What I'm saying is that's what they're trying to do. They think it gives them plausible deniability. Oh, we didn't deliberately target the school, it was the AI. Absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Question is, why would the AI think a school is a target? Because based on a lot of parameters, a school looks in some ways like a military installation, you know? Especially schools that are large enough. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like a big high school in the Midwest, but some of those schools can have like 5,000 kids in them. 6,000 if you include like staff. And like, that's a lot of people all in one area. And like, they in some cases can be built with like defensive ideas in mind. And like, I can very easily see how if you gave an AI a bunch of parameters and it could paint a school as a military target. I heard it was a military installation a decade ago, and that could also be true. Wouldn't the AI be able to cross-reference the location and see if there was a military installation known to be there? Banana Brains, also AIs can shit out bad outputs. They can make mistakes. There doesn't necessarily have to be a reason when they fucking hallucinate.
Would even stop attacking if we surrendered? Cause frankly it wouldn't be shocked they scorch earth all of us.
At this point, do you think Iran would even stop attacking if we surrendered? That comment doesn't make sense to me. Sorry. Girl, half my college's dorms were like old prison blocks. Yeah. Does accountability actually apply to the US citizens that make 9 to 10 figure salaries? Doesn't seem so. Hasn't for the last couple decades. It should. Absolutely, just asking questions. I mean, the answer is AIs make mistakes. They hallucinate data. They come to bad conclusions or erroneous conclusions. Kind of like how we have large language models that can't tell the difference between poisonous and non-poisonous mushrooms. And then people publish books with data that has poisonous mushrooms telling you that those are edible, you know? And when we have that, just as a low stakes example, but then you extrapolate that model up to using frankly incomplete intelligence to assume military targets, like you can arrive at some very wrong conclusions, you know? Yeah, our AI cameras mistake bags of chips for guns. The idea here that we seed targeting over to an AI, it's reprehensible, but it's being done. It would mostly be using satellite photography, so would also have wide open spaces, which we don't have in many places other than military or schools. Yeah. Also, it's not like a thinking thing, so it's not going to like double check itself. It's not sentient, you know? It's not going to double check itself or think in a different way. It's a glorified Google search. There's a famous story about military AI software from the 90s that was trained to detect tanks. The testing was 100% accurate until it was deployed in the field, where it became completely unreliable. Turns out all the photos of tanks also had clouds. Turns out the military made an amazing cloud detector. Damn. Yeah.
It's also pretty insulting to not only the works of Isaac Asimov, but the work of decades of computer programmers to call it AI when it can't iterate or innovate.
I mean, true. Like, it isn't even artificial intelligence, because it's not intelligent. It's just a sorting mechanism for statistically likely words that you want it to output.
Friend is an Afghan vet. City he was stationed near had a central building that was mosque, city hall, school, wedding hall, etc.
That makes sense. All of this makes me so angry. And every Republican in elected office, almost every single one of them, not everyone, almost every single one of them, is complicit with this on some level.
We don't control Israel's foreign policy, but we do control ours. And I think that's what you've seen this administration do, understanding that this case has been made for 47 years. We've been at war with Iran for 47 years. It's just now that we have a president who's willing to end it. We knew that this was coming, and we had to take the proactive steps to protect U.S. interests and troops in the region.
Yeah, they're now trying to run and make stick the idea that the United States has been at secret war with Iran for almost a half a century, and that Donald Trump is now just recognizing that we're at war that was already declared by Iran almost 50 years ago. And I do want to really emphasize here, we have not been at war with Iran for almost 50 years. That's bullshit. It's just bullshit. Or here's a representative Republican, Keith Self.
All of the members of Congress that are bellyaching need to stop it. We've got young Americans in harm's way today. If you've got a complaint, let's deal with it afterwards. But right now, if Congress wants to do something, let's get the defense industrial base moving faster to produce our guided missiles and all the weapon systems that we need. Move faster so that we can have the supplies we need for this and any future conflict and deterrence against China for sure.
What is your stance on the War Powers Act that's set to be voted on? I know Congress returning today, but voting on the War Powers Act, what is your stance there?
Look, every president since the War Powers Act was passed has said it's unconstitutional. Every president. If Congress wants to do something, let's get behind the president and have that discussion later. But right now, let's support.
God, I fucking hate Republicans. Man, I fucking hate Republicans. Like, well, every president has said the War Powers Act is unconstitutional. You mean the act that reaffirms that Congress has the power to declare war, the thing that's put in place by the Constitution of the United States? Oh, yeah, we'll have the discussion over whether or not our troops are being sent into harm's way after the war is done? What are you talking about? How dare you abandon your fucking duty and the oath that you swore to this country? Fuck you. Fuck you, coating yourself in patriotism while other people's kids get shot at. Fuck you. Every single one of these ghouls should be put on trial in front of the American people. Every single one of them. Because, guys, I don't think there has been a reckoning among the political elite yet with just how angry the American people are. Like, I don't think they get it. I don't think they understand how absolutely done we are with this shit. Like, you're telling us to shut up and get in behind the president as if we're supposed to trust this absolute goon? Like, I gotta be honest, guys, this ends in one of two ways. Okay? Historically, stuff like this ends in one of two ways. Okay? You either get accountability the easy way or you get accountability the hard way. And accountability the easy way is in the form of things like, truth and reconciliation commissions. You get prosecution of war crimes. You get, a court of law. You get a jury of your peers, and you get legal representation. And then the state and the state uses the law effectively to disperse that accountability, that justice. The hard way is the way that has been demonstrated in places like France during the French Revolution, or Italy after Mussolini was ousted from power. And quite frankly, I think our political elites have forgotten that this is a necessary component of any kind of national coherence. Like, there needs to be an enforcement mechanism for the rich and powerful that has them following the law. And we have, for so long, allowed the rich, the powerful, the politically influential to get away with, in some cases, literally murder, or in other cases, sexual abuse, even of children, that the wealthy and the powerful no longer expect to be held accountable. And I gotta be honest, that accountability, I believe, is coming one way or the other. And my preference would be for it to be done in courts, to restore our faith in our system, to restore faith that, by getting involved, people can, affect an outcome and make the world a better place. That is my preference. But there is a rage in this country that is deep and terrible. And we're seeing it, lash out in a lot of these different cases. And I'm really scared where that's going to take us. Guys like this, who are saying to the American people, to their own goddamn constituents, essentially, shut up and let the president bring us into war. Let the president send your sons and daughters to die for no reason that has been articulated to the American public, for no clear goal that has been articulated to the American public, for no legal, with no legal mechanism to allow it to even happen, as this president consolidates and seizes power. I gotta be honest, guys, it feels like things are starting to slip towards the hard way, and I do not like it. I gotta be honest. I don't think Republican leadership is gonna like it either if it slips farther in that direction. And I'm really scared for the future of this country. It's been the hard way for a long time. It hasn't, is the thing. It hasn't. Because when I'm talking about the hard way, I'm talking about fucking guillotines in the streets. I'm talking about heads rolling. I'm talking about, Mussolini being strung up at the gas station. That's the hard way. And that has not been happening here. Because we've been living in, this interregnum. Essentially, the ruling class, the Epstein class of our world, feels like they have just been able to get away with impunity. And the point I'm trying to make here is that the question of how to rectify this, of which way and what power is going to be ascendant next, lies in, are we going to get accountability the easy way or the hard way?
We need to bring back stockades and vegetable throwing as an American tradition for all these ghouls. Bring colonial rhetoric back too.
Honestly, yes. I mean, I'm not a fan of cruel or unusual punishment, and I want to hold fast to my principles, but there needs to be some form of accountability that prevents people from going into, like, you know, reign of terror shit. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be justice. And that is the only foundation that can hold up a society. And last but not least, let's end on some words from Pete Hegseth, just about the nature of this current conflict with Iran.
Israel has clear missions as well, for which we are grateful. Capable partners, as we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force. America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. B-2s, fighters, drones, missiles, and of course, classified effects. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
So, just real quick,
no stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise.
So, no rules of engagement, i.e., we're just gonna kill civilians. When you say no rules of engagement, you are openly declaring your intent to do war crimes. When you are saying, essentially, no democracy building, no nation building, you have ceded any kind of veneer on what this is other than slaughtering civilians en masse and destroying a country. When I say there needs to be accountability, I mean, we currently have someone who is in charge of our military openly stating an intent to embrace war crimes at the head of the war machine. This cannot be rectified without accountability. And one last time I have to say, that accountability can come the easy way or the hard way. And I hope to God that we get a Democratic candidate for president who is going to be swearing and gearing their presidency towards bringing every single person who did this and made this possible, every single collaborator, every single actor who brought us to this point, they need to stand in the light of justice. There needs to be accountability. Because if we do not have that, then the situation is going to continue to deteriorate. And I think that we are going to be in a very scary position. That's assuming we'll have an election in 2028. I believe we will have an election in 2028. I also believe Donald Trump is going to do everything in his power to, throw a wrench into that. But our job as Americans and as people who are building a movement on the left is to show the fuck up and vote anyway. That is what we need to do. And that is our job come election day. Our job in between election days is to organize millions and millions of other people to show up alongside us. So, folks, all that being said, I want Pete Hegseth personally to stand trial in front of America and to stand trial in front of the Hague. And I think that there is enough wrong that he has already done, enough harm he has done to the world to justify both those things happening. All that being said, folks, let me know what you thought about all this in the comments. I know this was just an awful, awful segment about the evils that America is doing in the world. But let me know your thoughts. I'd love to see them, read them. Hit the like button, subscribe, and get organized. Join your local Dems, join your local DSA. If you haven't, it's real easy. But we need people showing up, especially right now. Because right now is when so many decisions are being made on the local level about candidates, about elections, about platforms. Showing up right now is very important. Being in that room, sharing your ideas, organizing with like-minded folks, and convincing people to move further left That's where we need everyone to be. We need to be building a left-wing coalition with labor that can absolutely take down this Republican movement. It's necessary. We have to be doing it. Show up. And if you need help doing that, join our Discord. Reach out to GamerG for help making your local DSA more effective. Reach out to Dragonfly for help to make your local Dems more progressive. And let's get organized together because we need people to organize. So, folks, all that being said, one last thing. Check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Link down in the doobly-doo. And let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack. Riverboat.